Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
And now, Tim Dillon is going to hell.
Welcome to Tim Dillon is Going to Hell. I took down a tweet that I had tweeted where I thought it was a funny joke about the whole Covington situation, all those kids at the Lincoln Memorial and the Native American. I, like everybody else, saw 1 minute it looked like, and the media told me, and now I literally just, and I'm always skeptical of the media. I find it amazing how willful the misrepresentation of this event was, and that nobody did their due diligence. So I saw the minute. I thought all these kids had started harassing this Native American guy. Because that's conceivable. And I tweeted a joke where I said, that video is a fun reminder that some of them do need to be shot, the children, you know? And it's very hard to do pro-shooting children material. Is very hard. There's very rarely an instance where you can get away with it, but I tweeted that. The full video came out. It exonerated the kids. They didn't start anything. If anything, they were being harassed by the black Israelites, and the Native American guy came up and started banging a drum in one of their faces. And he did it to another kid first, and then he moved on to the second kid, and the kid kind of just stood there smirking. And the facts of the situation have exonerated the kids. They did not seek to harass the guy. I can't imagine that they're guilty of anything except being white and wearing MAGA hats and being at a pro-life march, which for large swaths of the left is enough to throw them in jail. You know, if these people on Twitter could, those kids would be in jail, and their crime would be, you know, supporting the president, being pro-life. And how many of those kids are even pro-life? You're fucking kids. You go to a Catholic school. We're going to a school trip? Great. And you show up, and you go to this dumb event that, you know, your parents pay $10,000 a year or whatever it is so that the school can take you on these events. How many of those kids are going to grow out of some of their views? But even in light of all the new evidence, so many people on Twitter are digging deeper, and they're saying that, well, these kids are racist, misogynist, homophobic, date rapists. I mean, Nazis. Their fevered imaginations. In their imaginations, these kids are every villain that you could even imagine, because they're standing there, they're white, and they have the red hat on, which is, in many people's minds, a crime. Again, it's not the best look. If I had a kid, I wouldn't want them walking around with anybody's hat on. Any child that I had, I wouldn't want walking with any political hat. I wouldn't want them walking around in an Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez shirt. I would say, go be a human being. Don't be a walking advertisement for an ideology. Be a unique person on this fucking planet. But I wanted to address that. I took the tweet down. I did a thing on Instagram. Nobody cares. It's not like I'm commanding a huge legion of followers. But, you know, in light of it, even though it was a funny joke, I was like, you know what? I reacted to a minute of video when I shouldn't have. As a comedian, I made a joke, whatever. This episode today is interesting because a few weeks ago on the show, I said, I am done with conspiracies. I'm retiring from conspiracy theories. I didn't want to be that guy anymore at a party. Well, I don't really go to parties, but at a dinner, which is even worse because there's fewer people. I didn't want to be the guy that constantly got the looks, that was constantly out of step with everybody else. And more importantly, I didn't want to be the person that other people came up to with their crazy conspiracies to unload on me. And then I had to sit there after every show and decipher some logo from a Midwest pizzeria and wonder if I saw the NAMBLA symbol in it. after a show. This is not exactly what I wanted to spend my life doing. That being said, sometimes you make choices in your life, folks, at a very early age that follow you for the rest of your life. I've made multiple of those choices. Doing coke at 12 or 13, I forget. That was a choice that then followed me through the rest of my life. I took a test for a Catholic school, Regis, in New York City. It's a high-end prep school in New York. Had I gotten into that school, I would have had an entirely different life. I did not. Spoiler alert. So I went back and I went to school on Long Island and met my friends there, the Legion of Zeros, the people I can call for no favors, who can really do nothing for me, and I for them. But had I gotten into this Catholic school, maybe I would have had a different echelon of people around me. I would have been a different person. You know, folks, early on in my life, I started reading about conspiracy theories, and it's kind of never left me. It's been a thing that it's very hard for me to quit, especially when the news is as ridiculous as it is. We've had 72 hours of people threatening to kill teenagers, and then people debating whether that's a good position. So at the end of the day, I can't quit the dark. I don't know why. It won't leave me. It's not commercially viable. You know, there's no there, so to speak. There probably is a there. But I'm never going to figure it out. I'll never flesh it out. I'm never going to know what I want to know. And I've kind of accepted all of those things. You know, justice or whatever thing you think you're getting, the truth, it's going to probably evade me and many others like me for my entire life. We're just never going to know exactly how this happened or that happened or who was responsible. That being said, sometimes you got to take the journey. Sometimes. I was in Wisconsin. A friend of mine texted me a link to a story that was run on the Daily Beast. I thought it's another comedy is dead. Here's the new comedian you have to watch. And it's, some poet, who knows, or some article from the Daily Beast. It's like, who's the best stand-up comedian? The Native American guy who was banging his drum at the Lincoln Memorial. He's the best. I didn't know because I'm not really a fan of the Daily Beast in the sense that I don't really read stuff there that I talk about on this show. There's not a lot of hard-hitting investigative pieces in the Daily Beast. Hey, but egg on my face because I actually thought this was a pretty good article, a very good article. And the article said, and I forget who sent this to me or if I stumbled upon it, it said the Smiley Face Killers is a serial killer gang murdering young men across the U.S. So I'm in Madison, Wisconsin. It's 10 degrees. I'm not going to go outside. I'm in my hotel room all day. I got beat on $80 worth of cheese in a cheese shop. I didn't even know that could happen. But as soon as they saw me coming, they're like, well, we're going to fuck him up. I walk in, an elderly woman starts just feeding me little cubes of cheese. We're tasting the cheese. It's deadly serious in Madison, Wisconsin. Deadly serious. It's like I'm getting communion. She would say, this is an 8-year-old cheddar. And I would say, thank you. This is a 10-year-old cheddar. Thank you. And then at the end, she goes, well, do you want them? And I said, yeah, okay. I thought I was getting a little taste, or she'd wrap up a little package. I got hunks and wheels. It ended up being $80. I took it back to my hotel. And I was also, by the way, going to quit dairy 2 weeks ago. I was quitting conspiracy theories and dairy. And I end up sitting in Madison, Wisconsin, eating a chunk of black pepper Bellavitano, beautiful cow's milk cheese, and reading about a shadowy gang of serial killers abducting college-age athletic young men, or people that appear to be. So again, I immediately go, me and Raymond are their demo. Good-looking, athletic, successful, both of us community college graduates. This is the gist of the article. The gist of the article is that there's lots of unexplained disappearances of young college-age men all over the country starting in 97, and a lot of them happening in Minnesota, Wisconsin, but a few in New York and Boston. And these are usually, they all fit a similar profile where it's a missing person and then the body is discovered in the river, whatever body of water is close to where they disappeared. A lot of these men are out drinking. They get separated from their friends. They disappear. And then they're found maybe a month later in the river. So immediately I go, oh, listen, drunk people fall in the river. Next. But as I look more into it, I start thinking about how crazy some of these cases are. You have people that they leave a bar with all their friends. There's no explanation. They walk 2 miles out of the way, not in the direction of their house, and they end up in a river. They find this person, 30, 40 days later, and then a coroner goes, they've actually only been dead for 2 or 3 days. And it's like, what the fuck's going on? They're in the same clothes they disappeared with that night. And then I thought about, I grew up in a town in Long Island where it was surrounded by water. There were bridges and canals, and really nobody ever drowned. And it was not for lack of drinking. It was certainly not for lack of drugs. We were on acid, Special K, ecstasy, smoking weed, Vicodin, Percocet, Demerol, morphine, cocaine, all of that shit all the time. And none of my friends ever drowned. In fact, very few of them even fell in the water. So I started thinking about these individual cases, and I started reading up on them, and they were very interesting. And the type of guy was always a very somewhat, good looking, very good looking to good, decent looking, athletic, usually a college kid. And they all disappeared after a night of drinking, getting separated with their friends. Well, now I'm in, folks. I'm in. I'm deep. I'm in. I start emailing the detectives that worked on the case. I start emailing people that have written books about it. I start emailing friends that know about the dark web. I go, hey, can you call me back? I got a thing. You don't understand how I get in. You don't get it. You have wives and kids and jobs. Shit prevents you. You read the article and then you're like, all right, I'm done. I fucking start going crazy. I get a beautiful mind. I start scribbling things on pads. I go nuts. I get Da Vinci Code with this shit. I start fucking trying to figure it out. What is it? MK Ultra? Maybe. Government's abducting these kids? Are these occultists? The cops and the FBI don't think, they say these are all accidental deaths. They said the Franklin scandal didn't happen either. They fucking lie. Hey, it's Martin Luther King Day. We're recording this. Go ask the FBI what happened to him. See if you get a story out of that. Most local police are sloppy and lazy, and it does not do much to dissuade them from taking a deeper look into these types of events. And higher up people, why they wouldn't do this, who knows? So I start looking into this, and Oxygen has a new show about this. That's why Daily Beast ran this article. Oxygen has a limited series about these events that they have dubbed the Smiley Face Killers. Why? Because near the scene of some of these bodies being recovered, there is graffiti, smiley face graffiti. It could be a smiley face. It could be devil horns. There's a few other words and phrases that pop up. However, the graffiti is not always found by the bodies. Sometimes it's found so far away from the body that you would think it would be negligible. So as an element, the graffiti is the least, one of the least important elements personally to me looking into this. I'm pretty sure not all of these kids are accidentally falling in rivers in the middle of the fucking winter, 2 miles from the bar that they were at. Who's fucking walking anywhere since we have Uber and Lyft? Literally, who's walking? These are athletes. These aren't fat asses like myself who go, oh, I'll walk home. Not that I fucking do that either, but I should. They don't have any reason to do that. They're drunk. They get in an Uber. These kids aren't poor. So it's strange that these things are happening. The smiley face graffiti supposedly establishes that there's some level of coordination here, organization. This is a crew doing this, a bunch of different crews. So you have a guy in 97, Kevin Gannon, a detective. he holds a press conference in 2008 because he's been following this career. He's been following these types of killings for his entire career. 2008, he comes out and goes, "We've got a problem. It's called the Smiley Face Killer. We think these are different cells in different cities that are killing these men and dropping them in the river, they call it a drop job. They kill them somewhere else. They abduct them. They kill them. They put them in the river. Or they leave them in the river to drown. Certain cases would suggest one, certain cases suggest the other. And by the way, none of these bodies have any signs of trauma, signs of struggle. So what Gannon said, and he works with another guy, a researcher out of the University of St. Cloud, Minnesota. I forget his name, but from looking into it, they believe that these victims have been drugged. They're drugged. A lot of these bodies have had GHB, which is a date rape drug. And this is true. And it says it in the article in the Daily Beast. A lot of these bodies, when they go through after a medical examiner looks at them, they have levels of GHB, which is a date rape drug. So the thought here is that you have a crew of people, I don't know how many, stalk someone at a bar, see them, drug them, trick them into going somewhere, murder them either at the site or off site, and dump their body in a river, and then the bodies are discovered sometimes 6 days after they're missing, sometimes 30. Another complication is a lot of these missing persons, they not dredge the river, but they search the river because that's the first thing everybody thinks about. So after these people disappear, the river is searched. The forest, the area that they live, it's searched. They bring in dogs. And their body is not discovered, but it's discovered a month later. And then people say, well, maybe they missed the body. Certainly possible. Or maybe the body wasn't there yet. Maybe they were still alive. Or maybe they were killed somewhere else and then deposited in the river. I'm emailing the detectives. I'm not getting anything back. I get a book on my Kindle about it. This writer, Steph Young, who wrote a book. She wrote under the pen name Stephen Young. Her name is Steph Young. Yeah, of course, she's got all kinds of other books. Something Snatches You in the Woods. We've been over this, folks. We know who writes. We know who takes these ideas seriously. I'm not trying to impugn her credibility, but, she's she's a paranormal researcher or whatever you would call her. Her book is actually really good. And it's just really case after case after case about, how improbable it is that all of these men drown. Athletic, good-looking, smart guys that get separated from their friends at bars all somehow end up in a river. The improbability of that, when you look at case after case, and you look specifically into these cases, is very high. They also wrote a book. The detectives wrote a book. Gannon wrote a book. I forget what it was called, but it was about the same thing. He looked at 10 or 14 cases that were all eerily similar. And he, put out the Smiley Face Killer theory. And then you go to the message boards. And then you go to the, is it a group? The idea right now, and this is from the Daily Beast articles, this is a group that communicates with each other on the dark web. So I asked a friend of mine, I'm like, how could that potentially happen? He's like, well, there's so many different ways to communicate on the dark web, but there's other ways to communicate without it. Like you could communicate through video games. And somebody explained to me that you could write a message in bullets on the wall of something in a video game, and there's absolutely no way to trace it. It disappears immediately. And so I was just like, my mind was blown at all the ways you could communicate with people and say something that no one could ever prove that you said. And there's no record of it. So the belief is that this is a group. It's many groups, by the way. It's not one. There's cells all over the place. Very heavy in Wisconsin. Very heavy in Minnesota. Lots of activity in the heartland. There's a lot of occult activity in the heartland. Is this a cult? I don't know. Are these human sacrifices? Is it thrill killing? Is it rich people, ordering? One of the things, there's so many theories. One of them was it's Amish people who are kidnapping because the Amish bloodline is closed. So the Amish are kidnapping these men because they want their semen, because they don't want any more birth defects, because the Amish have been inbreeding for years. So these are Amish gangs. This is a theory. My producer's laughing. This is a theory. Another theory is that it's an occult group of people similar to the people who did the Manson murders, and that stuff never really went away. It kind of went underground. And that it maybe has some CIA or government involvement, because again, the cops and the FBI don't seem too keen on really doing any real investigations into these clearly suspect events. There's maybe a few different reasons for that, but it seems like they're not gung-ho at figuring out what the hell is going on. So there's all those different theories. If you believe it's happening, if you think that it's not possible that all of it is a coincidence, and all of these guys, I'm not saying all of them it happened to, but the idea that you have, over 300, so many people just ended up in rivers with the same exact story. And all these inconsistencies along the way, if you posit that that's improbable, then something's happening to these people. Who's doing it? It's a group. It's organized. People are communicating with each other. It's kids, because a lot of these people are seen. The last time they're seen is in the presence of other college kids, or a strange couple that started buying them drinks at the bar, and then all of a sudden they're gone. A month later, they're in a river. So is it a group? I mean, is it a loose association of cells, kind of like terrorists? That's what this researcher had suggested. They communicate on the dark web. That's how they operate. Why? That's the big question. Why is this happening? They don't steal any money. It's clearly, they don't want, what is it? What is the purpose of the graffiti, if any? Is it to terrorize people, to scare them? Is it just to put it out there? Is there occult significance to this? One of the things I think that surprises me the most about American history is that they're really, and I'm going to try to not sound like a psychopath here, which is hard, but there's really not a proper examination of the occult influences, Masonic and or otherwise, with the way that certain very powerful groups in this country formed, the way they behave, the things they do. And this is also, I've seen a lot more books about how the occult influenced Adolf Hitler in Germany than I have seen. And I'm sure there's tons of them. And I get it. I'm not saying that the work hasn't been done, but it's very little of it is bled into the mainstream. That is an influence. When you say occult, you don't just mean chubby fat chicks at a Hot Topic, or these fucking weirdo goth kids who have no friends. We're talking about people that have a set of beliefs that cause them to act in certain ways, and they share that set of beliefs with another people. And as Nick Bryant came on the show and said, some of that is esoteric. Some of it is just the optics and the way that it looks, and it's a fun camaraderie, and it's a fraternity, and we're all in it together, and we all wear these hoods in Monterey, California, and sacrifice an owl, and we sacrifice a mock sacrifice to Moloch the owl in the Bohemian Grove, and that's fun, and it's a way, and is it that? Is it just that? It might be. In many cases, I think it is, but for certain people, maybe it's not. Maybe there is something deeper there. I don't know. But when you look at the type of person that is being killed, it's a similar type of person. Is there a reason for that? Is there a reason? And people have specified it's the numerology. It's the amount of letters in your name. It's when you disappear, the days have significance. I don't know, and I can't tell you. And that's the thing, because you're like many, I don't want to use the word conspiracies, but many alternative viewpoints, you come to this wall where you go, there are so many different theories and ideas about what this could possibly be, One of them is that which is to me this is the least convincing, is that it is economically disenfranchised people that are jealous at rich college kids, just dumping them in the river. And I don't know that that's the case. And the reason I don't think that's the case is because, number one, poor people kill each other, largely. It's true, if you look at it. And number two, the precision with which this is done, if it's being done, how exact they are, how nobody ever gets caught, and nobody ever talks, and there's been no arrests. I mean, they're very, very good at what they do. It's almost clinical. I don't know if the motivation for that could simply be envy. I mean, if you saw a rich kid and his girlfriend and you murdered them because you were mad and you were angry and you were like, fuck, this kid's got it all and I have nothing. I should start doing that, but I should start fucking murdering people I'm jealous of. Just murdering everyone all day. Just nonstop murdering. Dogs. I get jealous of animals. Sometimes I see them. I'm like, your life is much better. There's a husky in my neighborhood. I'm like, you have everything. I don't think that's a rational idea here. But again, I could be wrong. So what is happening and why? We don't know. Government involved, MK, weird initiation rites into a secret order, killing someone. None of this I know. Is it they're communicating on the dark web? Well, maybe, but more, that's recent. Because this started in 1997. I was in the green room of a comedy club in Madison, Comedy on State, one of the best. The host, this guy Rory, really funny guy, came up to me. He's a fan of the podcast. See, I started talking about this. He goes, listen, I want you to talk to my friend. And he called his friend, and he asked his friend, would you do the podcast? And he said, my friend has had some experience with this. I don't know what kind of experience. I do know his friend lives in Wisconsin. They all live in Wisconsin. I don't know if his friend knew somebody disappeared. I don't know what happened. But his friend is going to call in a few minutes, and we're going to get the story. And again, I'm back, folks. I've relapsed. I've relapsed hard. I mean, this shit got me going and looking up Dave McGowan's old book, Programmed to Kill. So many young professionals listen to the show that are like, this is where I just can't get on the fucking, they just can't follow me down this alley, and that's fine. But McGowan wrote a book, Programmed to Kill, and he said serial killers in many cases are part of a group. And that group is covered up, and we only know about the serial killer. And he used the example of Son of Sam, and there's a few others in the book. And he said these guys were programmed to kill, and these were people that had been conditioned through either mind control or the government or whatever. And, for whatever reason, they had gone and done these heinous, horrible things. But it was not just this lone wolf scenario. They had been part of a very nefarious group, whether it was a cult, whether it was government experiments. So I started looking up that, and I didn't have the time to get into that. And that sends you down a whole nother rabbit hole. And then, then you're in the wilderness, folks. You're in the wilderness with no friends. Nobody wants you to invite you anywhere, which I really don't give a shit about. But you're in the wilderness, and the only people that think you make a lot of sense are themselves crazy. I said to my friend, I want to talk about the Smiley Face Killers on stage, but maybe somebody who knows somebody who disappeared, it might be weird. A friend of mine said, if I know one thing about the Smiley Face Killers, they're probably in the audience and they probably enjoy your work. So I said, well, that's the other thing. I don't need to lose fans. You know what I mean? So we're going to take this call now. I've kept this kid anonymous at his request. So I guess we're going to get some really good shit. I don't know. It may suck. It may not. I was promised something good. I'm sure we'll get it. Let's see what we get. I want to tell you about People's Choice Beef Jerky, folks. Every day I wake up and I want to tell someone about this, and I usually do. Usually it's an Uber driver or, it's somebody on the train that doesn't give a fuck, but it's LA's original small batch beef jerky. I'm trying to get in shape. The demons are carbs and sugar. Those are the demons. Small batch original, LA's original beef jerky is flavorful. It's made in small batches. It's really, really tasty. It's high protein. It's great for any diet where you're eliminating carbs and sugar. We love it around Gas Digital. We all eat it and chew it all the time. Many people look at other people and go, that person's a lot better looking than me. Boy, I'd wish I was that person. They must have a much better life. People are probably friendly to them. They always want to fuck them. They have more money. They live in a better area. All of that's true. And you wonder, how did they do it? Were they born this way? Were they lucky? Did they work harder? No. Beef jerky. That's the secret. Everybody's eating it. Models, actors. Yes, but they're not snapping into a Slim Jim. They're getting LA original small batch beef jerky. LA's where all the beautiful people. That's where they live. They're eating jerky. If you could get in their mansions, which you can't because there's fucking armed guards and a gate and probably dogs, but if you got through all of those layers of security, on the other side, you'd find hot people having private sex parties and eating beef jerky. I went to an LA party, that's the only thing they had was beef jerky. It was on Skid Row and it was in a tent, but the people there were very healthy. TD15 is the promo code. You'll get 15% off. I like it. I kid around with you, but I do snack on it. It is good. You need a snack, folks. Usually for a snack, I would have a Thanksgiving dinner. Turkey, cranberry sauce, stuffing, mashed potatoes. But I've decided not to. And I've replaced that with small batch beef jerky, the best in the business. 15% off. Thank you. All right, so hey, man, thank you for calling in to the show. We appreciate it. I know that we have a mutual friend over there in Wisconsin. It is actually as cold in New York right now as it was in Wisconsin. It's pretty brutal. What's the temperature there now?
Man, I don't know what it is right now. It was negative 20 when I left for work this morning, though. So it was a cold one.
Negative 20.
Yep, negative 20. And my buddy sent me a Snapchat. He was even farther south than me, and he was at negative 30 this morning. So,
jeez. This is why there are so many serial killers over there, because the weather, So I appreciate you taking the time to call in. I don't know your story. I was told that I have to talk to you because we were doing an episode today on the Smiley Face Killers, so I imagine that you know something about it, and I know a lot of stuff happened in Wisconsin, where you're from. So I appreciate you calling. I just figured we'd go through whatever it is that you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Yeah, it's an interesting subject. So I guess I'll start.
Are you one of them? No. You're not. No.
Nope.
What did something happen to you or a friend? What exactly is the? How are you involved in the thing?
Oh yeah, I'm I guess a survivor, you might call it. I believe.
Really?
So yeah, it happened to me. Yep, happened to me.
Jesus, what exactly happened?
All right, so it was about 3-4 years ago now. I had just transferred schools. So I was in Wisconsin. It was a UW school, and I was new to the area, and I actually just had my birthday. So I was going out with some friends at this party at this apartment. I knew a few people there. Most of the people I didn't really know. And I was not 21 at the time. So, everybody there was pretty much underage. And then I had a fake ID, so I was planning on going out later, but I was the only one with a fake of my friends. So, but I ended up meeting this girl at the apartment that also had a fake ID. She had her sister's ID. I had my brother's ID, so it worked out. And so she called a cab, and we went over to these bars. I'd never been downtown in this area before. And so we went to this one bar. There were a bunch of pool tables, and we walked in, and of course she meets up with like 5 other guys right off the bat. We walked into the bar, and she goes, "Oh, hi, these are my friends." And she kind of just ditched me at that point. So I was like, well, whatever, I'm here. And I'm a big pool player. So went in the back, was shooting pool with some random guys. They were real nice. I got a big, like 20-ounce cup of beer, and they had this like railing on the side. So I set my beer down, was playing some pool. And then maybe for about a half hour, and then that girl came back and she said, "Hey, we're heading out, going to another bar if you'd like to come." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not? You're the only one I know here, so I'll follow you guys." So we walked out of the bar, and she goes, "Hold on, I forgot something. I gotta go in and go back and grab it." So she steps back in the bar, and that is the last thing I remember.
So you literally, would you say you black out, or you can't remember anything other than walking out of the bar?
Well, so that's where it gets interesting. I'll be honest with you, the story's going to go back and forth a bunch because I black out, but then I remember things in like sporadically. So, but what was odd about it is that I remember everything crystal clear up until that point. So, and also I should probably let you know, I had, I think 1 to 2 beers at that apartment. And then that was the first beer I had when I was playing pool. So I was like 3 beers in, and I drink often. So it wasn't, I wasn't drunk by any means. But yeah, it was strange because I remember everything clear as day up until that point, and then everything blacked out. And I only can remember seeing this real strange, like bright light, kind of like humming fluorescent lights that you'd find in like a truck stop bathroom, on the, right off the highway, something like that. And I just remember the kind of like the hum of the lights and how bright, and just a very strange thing, but I don't remember seeing anything. It was just very odd. And then next thing I know, I'm laying down on the dam down by the river, the Wisconsin River. And I was just so confused and cold. And I'm like laying down. I can kind of hardly get up. I crawl, get up to my feet. And I'm right next to this fence that's about 15 feet tall with some barbed wire on top. And I'm looking around like, how the hell did I get in here? And it was like a brick wall on one side with some windows. And that was what like led into the dam. It was this really, really old building. And I'm trying to look through the windows. I'm banging. No one's letting me in. It was probably 3 a.m. at that point. And so there's no one there, but there was no way out. And so then the dam itself is about sidewalk width, and it was pretty long, actually. Probably about 50 to 100 yards long. So I started walking down the sidewalk dam part, and on my left side was railing, and then about a 15-foot drop to jagged rocks and rushing river water. And then on the right side was thin to no ice, just where the water's tumbling down into the dam. So basically, if I were to fall off the left side, I'd fall 15 feet into a pile of rocks and rushing water. And if I fell into the right side, I would get sucked into the dam. And so I walk all the way down, and I'm just, the whole time I'm wondering, like, how the hell did I get here? What happened? It just made no sense. I get to the other side, and that is all fenced off as well. And there's like a door, but it's chained shut, and that was on both sides. So I finally get to that other side, and again, it's a fenced wall with a chain door, and it extends all the way out. So it's hard to paint a picture. You kind of have to see it, but in order to get around, I had to walk on this thin ice, which is right next to this open water that's just rushing through the dam. But I'm holding on to the fence, but I'm still standing on the ice. And then in order to get around the fence, there's like 4 strands of barbed wire, just specifically to prevent somebody from getting in or out. So now I had to let go of the fence and hold on to the barbed wire. And I got about halfway around when the ice broke, and that just carved into my hand. So I'm just holding on, but my legs are dangling, up to my knees in the water. It was deeper than that, but since I was holding on to the barbed wire, I didn't fall all the way through. So I was able to just keep holding onto the barbed wire, was able to like meander my arm around and kind of flop on the ice. And I was able to pull myself up the other side of the fence and get myself onto the other side of the dam, which now I could walk the rest of the probably 15 yards until I got to land.
All right. So when you wake up, you're laying on a dam? Because I'm trying to picture this.
Yeah, it's difficult to kind of paint a picture with words, but yeah, I'm sidewalk length, but on one side of you is a lake with water going under the dam, and on the other side is rushing river, about 15-foot drop.
Had you ever seen this dam before? Had it been a place that you had ever visited, or was this a completely alien environment to you that you woke up in?
Oh, an alien environment. And that's what the worst part was. I didn't even think I was in the city that I was in anymore. I thought I got like drugs somewhere else. I had no idea where I was at. And that's what made it the scariest, was once I finally actually got around and onto land, I had no idea where I was. I didn't even know what town I was in at this point. So I just started walking aimlessly.
And then what happened? Yeah.
Yeah, so I started walking aimlessly, and I'm going down, and I was like just freezing cold. Obviously, it was about the same time of the year. It's like it happened the day before the Super Bowl, however many years ago. So this time of the year, and freezing cold. My legs are soaking wet now, so my pants are starting to freeze because it's just that cold.
Do you have
walking around?
Do you have your clothes on?
Yeah, yep, fully clothed. Pants and a jacket. My phone was shattered. That's the other thing I probably should mention, which it wasn't prior to this incident. So I woke up to a dead, shattered, broken phone, but was still in my pocket. And money, I wasn't robbed or anything. And so I'm walking in like these neighborhoods, and a cop even drives by, and I'm waving down this cop, and he just drove right by.
Are you sure that the cop saw you?
I guess I'm not 100% sure, but I think he did, and I'm assuming his only thought process would have been, drunk college kid, not worth my time right now. I don't know, but yeah, it was just the strangest thing. Maybe he didn't see me. I was, just off the sidewalk a little bit, but from where I was at, I thought that he probably just drove right by. Maybe had something more important to do, but yeah, so anyway, I kept walking, found myself on a main road, and I thought, well, if I am in the town I was, then this should be the main street, right? So I walk, and I end up crossing the bridge, which was about 500 yards from the dam itself, and I'm walking over it, no one's stopping or anything, and finally, I intersect with the road that actually was the road I was expecting, and I was able to find my way back.
Do you have your wallet, keys, things like that on you?
Yep, wallet, phone, keys, everything on me. And I guess this probably doesn't really make much sense right now, but as you have to understand, I am like blacking out every 15 minutes. So, even by the time I was to the bridge, I completely had forgotten that I was at the dam. I just kept blacking out, even it was just weird. I'd be conscious, but I couldn't remember what happened 15 minutes ago. So then by the time I got home, I just walked right up to my room, and I told my buddy came to visit, and I told him, I'm like, I've just been wandering around neighborhoods for hours trying to find my way back. I had no memory of the dam at this point. And I'm like, yeah, it was the craziest thing. I was lost. And he goes, why are your legs all wet? I'm like, yeah, I have no idea. And it was just the strangest thing. We went to bed, woke up the next day. I'm telling my roommates, I'm like, yeah, it was the craziest thing last night. I was just wandering around neighborhoods lost. I'm all wet. My hands are all bloody. I had no idea what happened. So the day goes by. It's Sunday. I watched the Super Bowl. It was just the strangest thing. I wasn't hungover at all. I felt great, other than my sore feet and hands. And then later that night, I was just hanging out at my girlfriend's apartment, and we're sitting there watching TV, and I kind of zone off, just kind of thinking in my own head, and I keep hearing the sound of rushing water like in the back of my head, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, why do I keep hearing this? And all of a sudden, it all came back to me. Piece by piece, and I'm like, I remember being on the dam. I remember the rushing water. I'm like, what the heck? And again, I didn't even know that city had a river going through it. So I asked my girlfriend, who had been going to school there for that whole year, and I had transferred at semester. And I said, "Hey, does this town have a dam or a river that goes through it?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, there's the dam downtown." I'm like, "Oh, I was there last night." She goes, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was there last night." And I remember thinking, like, yeah, I remember I had to climb a bunch of barbed wire to get out of this area. So I'm thinking, I must have got so drunk that I went and got into the dam somehow. And I mean, that was what I was thinking at the time. So I'm like, I'd never heard of the Smiley Face Killer or any of this really. So I'm just super confused. And so anyway, that's at that point, that's all I could come up with. So then the next day in one of my classes, one girl comes up to me and she goes, "Hey, how was your weekend?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was a weird one. I went out and I woke up at the dam. I must have got so drunk I somehow got into the dam." She's like, "Oh, that's pretty crazy." She's like, "You don't remember how you got there?" I'm like, "No, I have no idea. I mean, it just doesn't make sense." She goes, "Oh, well, have you ever heard of the Smiley Face Killer?" And I'm like, "No, never heard of that. Don't know what you're talking about." She goes, "Look it up. You'll find it interesting." So I went home, looked up Smiley Face Killer, and it's talked about this like gang or whatever that goes around and like gets drunk people to fall in the lake somehow or something like that. And it talks about athletic age males. And I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting. I mean, that fits me, but I keep thinking, I mean, well, obviously that didn't happen, what are the odds of that happening? So still not really believing that was the case. I'm like, whatever. But I kind of started telling other people, I'm like, yeah, this girl said something about Smiley Face Killer, and it does kind of match up. It's interesting, right? Then I did more research, and I find out that it happens at, all over at all the UW schools, and even in some places in Minnesota, like St. Cloud area. And I found an article at the school that I was at, and it was really weird, brushed under the rug, about a report of a student that died on his birthday in the winter, fell in the same area, not at the dam, but the same area in between the bridge and the dam. And they, of course, nobody mentioned Smiley Face Killer, except in the police reports it said possible Smiley Face Killer, something like that. But they didn't, it wasn't front page title of the article. And then there was another article talking about how the bridge was actually repainted in the middle of the winter, right a week after the kid died. And no one could explain why you would paint something in below freezing temperatures. I mean, that just obviously doesn't make sense, unless it were to be getting rid of graffiti of some sort. So then I started thinking about the smiley face thing a little more, and I'm like, graffiti, it's all about the smiley face, whatever. So I finally get a buddy to come drive down with me to go to the dam. We check it out. I'm like, holy shit, that's what I'm talking about. That looks familiar. That's where I was. That's where I crawled across. And we're not seeing anything on the dam, but even farther past is the railroad bridge, and that's not even 50 yards past that. You can see it from clear as day from the dam. And what do you know? I got my telephoto lens camera and I zoomed way in, and sure enough, there's a smiley face painted in red with devil horns on it. So I took a picture of that. I still have that. But yeah, it was just real eerie, and I'm starting to think like, holy shit, this is actually starting to kind of line up what that girl was saying about the Smiley Face Killer. And I'm still not believing it at all. I'm just like, what are the odds,
This girl that you went to the bar with?
Yep.
Have you ever seen her since that night?
So I've not seen her. I don't know who she is, but I remember right after it happened, I told the people, yeah, I went to the bar with that one girl, and they go, oh yeah, she's real cool. And they said that they swore that she would have had nothing to do with it, but that was like a friend of a friend of a friend who swore that. And since then I've lost contact with them completely.
Right. Now, when you arrive at the bar with her, you said she had 5 other people there that
5 guys. Yeah.
What did they look like?
She had already knew. I mean, I don't really remember looking at each face, but yeah, big guys. I don't know. I mean, I guess they weren't.
Were they older, younger?
Yeah, they probably were. I mean, not older, probably like 27, at that point I was like 20. So
Okay, how old was
Pretty
she?
she was about 22 because she had a fake ID. She'd used her sister's ID.
Now, you said you had one beer at that bar. Who got you the beer?
I got the beer, but
Okay.
but yeah, like I said, I left it over when I was playing pool, so I was unattended frequently.
Okay. And now she's kind of ignoring you, you said, when her friends are there. So how did so was it weird to you that after kind of ignoring you, she came up to you and was like, "Would you like to go to the next bar with us?"
Yeah, real weird that she wouldn't want me to like hang out with them while we were at the bar, but for some reason she came back. You'd think if she was just trying to hitch a ride with a guy to go to a bar, and she already had guys there, she would just be like, all right, let's ditch this guy as soon as we can. I mean, I just came to, so I could go with someone.
Now,
But yeah, and she came back. That's what was odd.
yeah. Now, let me ask you another thing. Where was she and those guys? Where were they when you're playing pool? Are they in another room? Are they in the same room as you?
They were at the bar, but this is a big bar. So I really never saw them that entire time I was playing pool. I mean, I never like looking over. I just assumed I got ditched, whatever.
And you have not seen any of them since that you can remember?
No.
Did you think to go to the police, or did you think to go to the hospital, have a toxicology test, see if there was any drugs in your system? A common drug used is GHB, which is a date rape drug. Did you have any of that stuff done?
I did not. But at the time, you have to remember, I just convinced myself that I had somehow gotten drunk enough to go in there and do this on my own. So, and also I was under 21. So I'm like, I know they say, you're not going to be in trouble, but like, that's really the last thing I wanted. And again, I didn't think anything to do with serial killers. So I'm like, why would I mean, that didn't even cross my mind.
Right. And you didn't even know that this was an option, the Smiley Face Killer.
I never heard
right.
of them.
I mean, listen.
Yeah. Oh, and
yeah.
Well, and the other thing is, I thought, what my luck, I would go to the cops and say, yeah, can we get the surveillance tapes from the dam? And then they would just see drunk me trespassing, and I'd get busted for underage drinking and that. So that never even crossed my mind. And that was before Smiley Face Killer or anything. So
are there surveillance tapes at the dam?
I assumed they would have surveillance tapes, but then I ended up, once I figured out that this was definitely the case, which I'll explain to you how I figured out it was definitely Smiley Face Killers. Then I talked to people about it, and they said, yeah, no, there's no way they'll have the tape still. Those things are usually like cached within 2 weeks or something like that. And by that time, it had already been, probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Right. But if you had died, they would probably look at the tape if you had died. Now, where you were left on the dam, would it be likely that the person who left you there really thought that you were going to fall into the water? Would it be yeah? Is it almost miraculous?
It's a guarantee.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. The detective said, I'll get into that later, but they said, the people I talked to said that there was, like, I'm extremely lucky to be alive in general, but yeah, there's like a sober person would get through no problem, right? But a person that was just recently drugged there's very slim chances that I should have gotten away with it, what I did. But yeah, like I said, it was as narrow as a sidewalk, and there was a railing on the side where it was the dam side where it would fall like 15 foot drop into the river. But the other side, there was no railing. It was just a 3 foot drop into open water getting sucked under the dam.
Have you ever tried to find this girl? Like you said, she was a friend of a friend. Have you ever tried to track her down?
No, and yeah, I never. I talked to the detectives in charge of the investigation, which I was going to get to eventually. But they said that I gave them all the information, and they said, yeah, that it's a lost cause for the most part. So
let's talk about that. How do you contact these detectives, because these are the detectives, by the way. They have a new show on Oxygen Network. An article came out in the Daily Beast about this. There's a bunch of articles talking about it. There's a new limited series they have on Oxygen about these unexplained disappearances. And these guys are the ones that came up with the theory that it was a gang or, a loose association of people that go by the name, or they are dubbing them the Smiley Face Killers. How do you find those detectives, and what is the outcome of your conversation with them?
Yeah, so after this all went down, I did more research, and like I said, every time I looked into it or I went to the dam or I, further pursued this idea, it just kept pointing in that direction. So I got to a point where I did all the research I could, and that was about as far as I could get. So then I found a Facebook page called like the Smiley Face Killers, like true group, or I don't remember what it was. It was basically saying like it wasn't a hoax, or I don't know. There was a group trying to prove that it was a thing, and they seemed legit. So I was looking at stuff people posted, and they had a bunch of articles and stuff here and there. So I thought, well, whoever made this page must be real into it. So I messaged the guy and I said, hey, I had this experience. I feel like it definitely aligns with the Smiley Face Killers. Let me know if you want to hear it. And a couple days later, he messaged me back and said, yeah, go ahead and type up the story and, we'll give it a listen. So I went down, typed everything I could remember, just what I told you basically right here, and sent it. And about a week later, he said, oh my gosh, yeah, that absolutely aligns with every story we've ever heard. I mean, everything you're saying right now is like to a T what happens in the case of where these people are dying. And so they said, would you mind if we posted your story anonymous? And I said, yeah, that's no problem. So they posted it anonymous. And within a day, I mean, there were like 50 some comments about people asking more and more questions. And that actually got kind of weird too, because there was I was monitoring kind of the questions from afar, and there was one real weird question. I can't remember what the lady asked or whoever it was asked, but they were actually from the town that I was in. And it was like something real strange, real specific, and like almost like they knew. I don't know. It didn't make much sense. It was just something that didn't seem right. I mean, it wasn't like real creepy, like what's your name or something like that. It was just something like I've been waiting for something like this to happen in my town or something like that, and it was from the same town. I'm like, yeah, just didn't. I don't know. Kind of made the hair on your back stand up. And then they tried messaging, because I had to make an anonymous profile in order to answer questions. The people in the head of the group had me make an anonymous because people were asking so many questions and they just wanted me to answer them. So then they messaged me, and the person's name was like Rose or something like that, but it didn't seem like a legit profile. I don't know. They were just asking me weird questions. So then I kind of blocked them and I just stopped. I kind of left the comment section alone for a while. But anyway, then a couple weeks later, the people in charge of that group messaged me and they said, hey, the detectives in charge of the investigation, follow pages like these, and they saw your story and they were wondering if you would do a 3-way phone call with them, or if we could give you their email. So I gave them my email. They contacted me. We set up a 3-way phone call, gave them all the details. And I mean, they basically just let me talk. So I talked and pretty much the entire time, told them the story. They asked, questions. And then at the end, they said, all right, listen up. And they said my name, listen up. And they said, so basically what you're telling us sounds exactly like all the stories we've heard. We're almost positive you were drugged with that. What did you call it?
GHB.
What you said. I don't remember. GHB. Yeah. And I remember it was GS or GH something. And they said, yeah, it's a date rape drug. And, it's exactly what you said. It's just, you're all of a sudden, you remember absolutely everything. And then just like switch of a light, you're blacked out. And so they said, so you're extremely lucky to be alive, and they said, like, for a fact that this was definitely a Smiley Face Killer case. And that's when it really kind of, had an impact on me. Like, all up until then, it seemed like, yeah, it was possible. And then it got to like, wow, this is actually close to likely. And then after the detectives, basically told me that, it was just like, absolutely, there's no other way.
Did they try to go to the bar and get a surveillance tape from the bar? Was there any due diligence that they did in terms of actually trying to flesh out who could have possibly did this to you? Did you ever try to go and see if your phone, could get reactivated, and if there were like weird texts or that you sent or received? Did they ask you about any of that? Or I don't know how long after this happened that you spoke to them, but like, did they ask you to do any of that, or did you do any of that on your own, or have you been back to that bar since?
Actually, at that point that they contacted me, it had to have been 4 or 5 weeks after, because again, it was about 2 weeks before I even really got the idea, and then another couple weeks after commenting on that page. And actually, they did a couple months later told me that they emailed me back and they said, yeah, we went to your town and went to the bar you were talking about, and we went to the dam, we saw the smiley face, we saw everything, and there was nothing they could do at that point, but they said, at least we've got it documented, so in case anything like this happens to anyone else, we'll be more on top of it, obviously, and they'll know where to look and stuff like that. But as for the phone, there was nothing there. I just ended up getting a new phone. Didn't even think about that. They didn't mention anything about that. It basically, they kind of seemed like it was really one of those, you create a police report, but nothing's really there's really not much they can do. And you're really not going to get much of a funding for somebody who didn't die in that case. So they
right.
just kind of chalked it up as well, you're lucky to be alive, and at least we have another incident to put on the map, and now at least we know if that something does happen, we know where to start looking. And
did they give you any idea of who they think does things like this and why? Did you ask them? Did you guys ever get into the potential makeup of who these people would be?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was confused about why wouldn't I have just gotten thrown in the river or something like that, or why wouldn't I have just gotten clubbed over the head, or whatever? You could drug me with something that would kill me, And they talked about how they like making it look like it's people drunk falling in, and I can't remember if they said it was because they don't like getting their hands dirty, or if they just don't want to get caught, or what the situation is, how it's a lot easier to get away with something if you don't actually pull the trigger, but you set it up so people, so it looks like an accident. He said that it's probably that they would assume that it's going to be people that actually aren't in college, that are like, I don't know, jealous or just not happy. I guess my point of view would be, you're in a bar and you see all these drunk college kids having a good time, you get resentful or something like that. So they kind of made it look like it was along the lines of something like that. But the other thing is, they said it's not like it's just a certain guy that's going around doing this all over the state, but people hear the idea and they get a kick out of that. They can, get away with murder, and it's, young, athletic, white college guys that, I don't know, again, do they want just to like revenge because they're not athletic white guys or what? But I don't know that and I certainly think it's a potential motive. I don't know if I buy the angle that it's people that are jealous. And the only reason I say that is because these are done so well. There's such a level of organization, and
there's rarely any fuck ups and nobody ever talks. So to me, a gang of people that are angry that they didn't get into college or they grew up poor, I don't know if they would be as successful pulling this off. Do you know what I mean? Like, to me, this...
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
Yeah. To me, this suggests that this is almost clinical, it feels like. That the way they're doing this, they've done it before. It's a well-oiled machine. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's thrill killing. I don't know if there's like an occult angle somewhere, a sacrifice angle. I don't know. But to me, and I read some of those things where people were like, well, maybe it's just, the economically disenfranchised getting angry and, throwing people in the river. And it's like, well, I don't know if that explains it. Also, there's a lot of people that the detectives that looked into it have said they think died before their bodies were placed in the river because they were missing for 30 or 40 days, but then a coroner will say that they've only been dead for 72 hours. So there's that angle too. You're from Wisconsin. Has any of your friends or family had anything you've heard of that besides your own experience, which is harrowing? Is there anything else that anybody else has had a similar experience or something in the same vein?
Yeah, actually, that's actually funny you bring that up. But so I kept this story away from my mom for the longest time because she didn't need to be worried with that, and then I wouldn't be able to go out and do anything ever again because she'd be afraid I'm about to get murdered.
Right.
So I didn't tell her forever, and then somehow, some way, one of my friends said something about, oh yeah, your son is the one who, almost got killed by the Smiley Face Killers, and well, either way, that broke the silence there. So she asked me about it, and I talked to her, and she goes, yeah, that's funny. Do you remember that one time when your brother found the body? And I'm like, oh, that's right. So my brother actually went to a different school, a different UW school in Wisconsin, where they often float the river, on nice sunny days, Saturdays, whatever. So apparently one day he was out floating with his buddies, and they were floating down the river, and one of his buddies says, oh, what the heck is that? It's like, looks like something's hung up on that log, or a log, something like that. So they swam over to it, and sure enough, it was a dead body. And so they were floating in the river, so they didn't have phones or anything like that. So obviously they're freaked out, and they went on the shore and were able to flag down mother and daughter who are actually touring the campus to potentially go there. And they said, yeah, can we borrow your phone? We need to call 911. We just found the body. So needless to say, that girl didn't choose to go to that school because what a great person. But yeah, so then, and it was interesting. My brother, he didn't talk about it for a long time. And even today, asking him about it, it really shook him up because obviously that's not something anyone really wants to see. But yeah, so my mom mentioned that. She's like, yeah, and there was talk about that being the case, about that being another Smiley Face killer victim. So my mom had heard about this prior to even hearing my story. So then, of course, I had to tell her the entire story, and she couldn't believe it. She's just like that. I mean, she did believe it because, what I told her, but it's just insane that happened in general.
Have you guys ever thought of leaving Wisconsin? Has the entire family ever thought, let's stop getting drugged, let's stop finding bodies, maybe we'll... Yeah.
My brother and I had both since gained quite a bit of weight, so we're no longer young, athletic college kids, so we're actually in the clear for Smiley Face Killer.
Okay. Now, let me ask you...
Yeah, go ahead.
No. Say what you were going to say.
Sure. I did end up throwing away the coat that I was wearing that time because every time I'd go to put it on, I kept thinking they're going to see me and they're going to be like, that's the kid. So it did scare me enough to throw away my coat and change my look up a little bit so I didn't get double tapped, I guess.
What Did the detective say to you, like, watch out, they could come at you again, or did they say that rarely happens? Are there a lot of what did they say?
They said that you're probably fine. They definitely said lay low, and the main thing they said is order bottled beer and keep it in sight at all times. But that was one thing they were really careful about. They said, guys don't think about getting drugged, so they're not too worried about it. But they said, yep, that's how they get you.
So that has changed the way how has this changed the way you behave? Is it just pretty much just bottled beer? When you're in a bar, when you're in an environment like that, are you more aware than you would have been had this not happened? Are you like looking around, looking
absolutely.
at people? Yeah.
I go to a lot of bars, so it doesn't slow me down in that aspect. But
it's Wisconsin. You gotta
careful. Right. Exactly.
Right.
Negative 20 degrees here. We got to be somewhere warm. Really like seeing the rivers and seeing a dam. Anytime I see a dam now, I just get flashbacks, and I don't want anything to do with rushing water and stuff like that. So I'm a lot more careful.
The graffiti with what was the feeling in your stomach when you saw that smiley face with the devil horns?
Oh man, my stomach dropped, and I remember just jumping back because you couldn't really see it clearly. You could tell there was graffiti, but like I said, I had my camera with my telephoto lens, and as soon as I zoomed in and I saw what it was, the person I was with, I looked at him, I said, holy shit, you're not going to believe this. Wow. And then I showed them the picture, and they're like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Have you heard anything recently about people missing, or because I know there's a lot of activity in Wisconsin for whatever reason? Is that or is it you're obviously not looking for it? And is there anything you've heard recently where you're like, a guy missing? That's weird.
Yeah, I've not heard anything recently. Every once in a while you see stories about a college kid being dead. But
would you say, and before we let you go, and we really appreciate you talking about this. I know it's probably not the easiest thing to talk about. It's really one of those experiences that's kind of, it really makes you appreciate life because you probably came very close to losing it, Growing up in Wisconsin, is there anything, and this is a very general, vague kind of question, that a lot of this stuff seems to go down in Wisconsin, whether it's serial killers or specifically smiley face incidents in Wisconsin are very high. Is there anything that you could, the real question is like, if you had to pontificate why, and they've happened all over the country, but a very high concentration of them in Wisconsin, if you had to even guess or speculate as to why that seems to be a hotbed of these type of incidents, what would you say?
Yeah, my theory on that would be there's a couple things. I think the main thing is there's the Wisconsin River runs through pretty much every UW campus. Whether it's La Crosse, or even Eau Claire has the Chippewa River and the Eau Claire River, but La Crosse, Stevens Point, and Oshkosh has got water there. There's just all those college campuses are right on moving water. So that's definitely one. And two, we're known for our drinking culture. So obviously there's just a ton of people out drinking at the bars. So, you got easy targets. And then three, it seems like it's always happening in the winter when there's potential of being like thin ice or really, you fall in cold water, you're probably going to die even if you're drunk or sober versus warm water. And it just seems that the cases I have seen are more frequently in the winter where you can see like snow or footprints and stuff like that. So I'm just assuming it's more dangerous in the winter, dangerous near water, and easy targets because it's, there's bars everywhere and a bunch of young college kids going out.
Yeah.
Drinking.
It's interesting. It's kind of a terrifying reality and I said I was done with conspiracy theories 2 episodes ago. I'm retiring because I do comedy all over the country, and people come up to me after my show and they try to show me a symbol in a look, this is the symbol for, child sex trafficking, and it's in this, donut logo. And you're like, all right, buddy, I don't know what to tell you. But this, I started reading about, and our mutual friend said, you got to talk to this guy. And I mean, just talking to you, the way I feel, there's really no possible way. Do you even think, like, how the hell did they get me down to that dam? Do you even go through in your mind, like, how many people you think it was just, would it have been hard for them to get you there? Was there a way to get you there? How do you think this? Do you think they literally threw you? Because you didn't have any broken bones. There was no struggle. There was none of that. How do you think they placed you on this dam?
Yeah, that's the other thing. My assumption, and I went back there and checked it out, and I remember just thinking, because I went in originally with the mindset of I got so drunk that I somehow got in here. And I went around, and I mean, a sober person couldn't climb in there. There's barbed wire everywhere. So I honestly thought, like I said, there's a door in the fence, like a chain link fence door that was like chained shut, where you have to come in with a padlock, a key, and you have to unlock the padlock, unchain it. And so I always thought it must have been somebody that worked there or had a key or knew someone that was there. Or I guess I don't even know. But the main thing is, it's way more likely that somebody put me in there than I would have gotten in there.
Of course. No, 100% somebody put you there. The reason that I ask is exactly what you got to. Is there an entrance where somebody would have had to have a key, and which you say there was? You wonder if somebody either worked for whether it's the parks department or somebody had access to that, because you said when you got to that door it was locked.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming it had to have been something like that. I mean, there's just, like I'm telling you, it was about a 15-foot tall fence with that like curled barbed wire that you see around a jail. Like, if I did crawl up in there, I would have been sliced wide open. My shirt would have been torn apart. But no, like you said, I was pretty much unscathed, other than the barbed wire cuts on my hand that I had gotten from getting out, which was on the other side of the dam. Because I started on the side that was impossible to get in, and I got out on the side that was very difficult to get out because of the way the barbed wire. And again, I feel like I'm not doing this justice because you can't see the situation. But I mean, if you could see the barbed wire, the fence, and how
I'm looking at what I think is it, but and obviously we're not telling people where that is. But I'm looking at it. It looks crazy. If what I'm looking at is the thing, but I don't know.
Yep. I was on it, but I mean, you can look at it on a Google Maps view. Is
yeah.
That where you're on?
I just hit Google image.
Yep. And okay, yeah, there's an image too. Yeah, you can see. I'm assuming you got the picture where it's like from the riverside where you can see the big drop.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a huge. I mean, this seems to be very. The river is wide.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and I see that it's. I see exactly what you're talking about. It's about a sidewalk long, and I mean it's very, 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 very long. I mean, it's a sidewalk width, but
and narrow.
Yeah, very long and narrow, and yeah, it's just rushing water on both sides, and then.
So I started on the side with the big building.
So okay.
The big building, and then you can see the other side where there's like no building. It's just kind of where. And I ended up on that side, and that's how I was able to climb across the fence and around the barbed wire.
Yeah, there looks like a few big buildings, or I mean, it looks like there's a few different structures.
Yeah, there's one main building that's connected to the dam, and then there's a couple like buildings that I don't know.
Right. Yeah, really wild stuff, man. Yeah.
I mean, even disregard the Smiley Face Killer in general. Waking up on the dam is just not where you want to be.
I mean, put it this way, I was a degenerate alcoholic for years. And I woke up in a lot of different places. I woke up in a house. I got so drunk I bought a house. And I woke up and I said, where the hell am I? And they go, you own this. So I've woken up in some real problems, That took a decade to extricate myself from that. I had to walk out of that house for 7 years until I found the exit. But this is one of the craziest stories I've ever heard. And the idea that you survived is amazing. And you have a good girl, and you sound like you're a good dude. You have a nice life. Like, thank God. I'm sure there are so many people that in your position would not have made it, would have just rolled off that dam, and that would have been it. Had you rolled off that dam, that would have been it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Either side.
Either side.
I was voted in high school most likely to survive the Hunger Games. So
is that true?
Killers picked the wrong guy. This is true. Yep, you can see it in the yearbook. Smiley Face Killers messed with the wrong guy.
You were voted most likely to survive the Hunger Games in high school.
I that as a compliment.
I was voted most likely to steal someone's lunch. Listen, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. You've convinced me. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I don't know who's doing this or why. I've got some ideas, but I'm glad that I had you on, because usually with these things I get a writer on, somebody wrote a book about it, but a lot of people that embrace these types of things are they themselves questionable in terms of credibility, because then they start going on about Bigfoot. You know what I mean? It's like, so what I appreciate is that you have really no interest in making this up or embellishing anything. This is a story. It happened to you. It terrified you. It literally fits the profile of every other story, except tragically those people die. So to suggest that this is like a coincidence or somehow you got yourself onto a fucking dam after having 3 beers is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's odd. And like I said, I mean, I did everything I can to prove this theory wrong. I mean, I'm like thinking, I'd rather convince myself that I was able to get that drunk, blackout, not with that many beers, not be hungover the next day, climb into a very securely barbed wired fence and do all this miraculous shit, cross the dam, survive, find my way back in a town that I'm not familiar with. I'd like to convince myself of that, but I got to give some credit to the Smiley Face Killers, because I don't think I'm capable of doing that all by myself.
Yeah, I know so many of my drunk, useless friends should have been thrown in the river. They go after the successful ones. This has never happened in Long Island, and we had water all over the place. We all should have drowned, and nobody was successful enough for them to get. But listen, man, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it, and stay safe out there. How are you not in after that? How do you not get in after that? Now I'm fully in. I got to get out because put it this way. That story was fucking mind-blowing. I didn't expect it. I thought the kid was going to know somebody who disappeared, and it would be like a 5-minute thing, and I threw him off the fucking phone, and I'm like, thanks for coming. Because by the way, that's the caliber of guest you people usually suggest. Have my uncle on. He knows a lot about. But this kid was so good, so clear, and he told a story that's downright haunting. There doesn't seem to be any other explanation for it other than this. Crazy. So do what you will with it, folks. I don't know. I mean, we're at a wall. I told you in the intro, we're kind of at a wall. I don't know that there's going to be a ton more information coming out. I mean, we've kind of gone through a lot of the possibilities of what this could be. If there's other ones, I'll bring them up. I mean, it's certainly interesting, but I mean, the answer here is when you're out at a bar, be a fat, unsuccessful pig. That's the answer. And I just want to say thank God my parents raised me right. Thank God my parents raised me right. I wasn't running around Dartmouth looking good. Fucking. I do want to say a word about the detectives, because this is something that I believe you have to cover fairly and accurately if you are going to cover something like this at all. And a lot of the families happen to not be happy with the two detectives from New York who came up with this theory and have been following this group, supposedly. And they're not happy with them because they have promised, I think they've overpromised and underdelivered in terms of, delivering suspects and things like that. Nobody's hands are in cuffs. And I think the families, that's frustrated them. Supposedly the detectives were asking for money constantly, which frustrated the families. And this is Gannon and his partner. Supposedly, one of the men who died's father confronted Gannon because he was selling rights to interview the family to NBC. He was acting as kind of like a broker and trying to profit from this. So, I don't know. I mean, in the Daily Beast article, it says that Gannon has maxed out his credit cards and refinanced his house in his 20-year search for this elusive group. I will say this, Christy Peel, who was associated with this case, who wrote an article about it, didn't really want to be associated with the detectives anymore because she felt that they were, potentially like opportunists. I don't know if that's the right word, but she didn't want to be associated with them anymore because of that. And she'd spoken to members of the families. And this is not uncommon. And I don't know anything about these detectives. I've never met and spoke to them. I've emailed them. I didn't get anything back. I don't know if they're opportunists. It is not surprising that they very possibly could believe this is a real thing and still want some recognition for exposing it. And they want to make a little money. And I mean, at the end of the day, those aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. Like I do think that if you broke this down, you would probably find that they're deeply convinced this is real, and they've devoted a large chunk of their life to this, and at the same time, they've also perhaps, done things in the pursuit of this that are questionable. And they frustrated a lot of the families. So I wanted to, and one of them was accused of sexual assault by a college student. I'm not laughing at that. I'm just laughing at like, that I can't really, I mean, what do you want? What do you want from me on that? If that happened, this is not good. But I wanted to bring in that element because I think it's fair when you're evaluating all these different things. You have to look at where you're getting the information, who's giving it to you, why they're potentially giving it. So that is something. I don't know if the Oxygen series addresses that, but the Daily Beast article addressed the sexual assault allegation, and I had to do a little digging, and I found that there were some people that were frustrated with these detectives that were relatives of people who had died. And then there are people that really appreciate them and are on TV with them. So there's that. Make of it what you will. TimDillonComedy.com for all dates that you might want to come see me live. January 25th through the 26th, I'm at Governor's Comedy in Long Island. Please, if you come to the show, bring some heroin. I'm just kidding. Then I'm going to L.A., folks. I'll be in L.A. for a while in February. I got a lot of dates coming up in the spring. I'll be back at Laugh Boston, back at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, Dead Crow Comedy Club in North Carolina, the Woo Ha Ha in Massachusetts, and a lot of stuff coming up this summer too. Rate, review, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a rating. Some great episodes. Our Ari Shaffir episode's killer. Last week I went head-to-head with the New York Times comedy critic Jason Zinneman. Everybody loves that. TimDillonComedy.com for live stuff. Tim J. Dillon, Dillon, on Instagram, Twitter. Crazy episode, wild episode. Thank you for coming along, coming on the ride. If you have information about this that you find interesting, you can message me. Please don't message me nonsense. I almost don't even want to tell you fucks to message me. Please don't message me nonsense. Like some fucking crazy thing that makes no sense. But if you have information, or if you're one of the Smiley Face Killers and you want to get me involved, I won't fuck it up. Let me go on a run. I don't really like these people either. They won't let me fuck them. Let me go on a run. What do you push them in? I can lure them out of the bar. I'm gregarious. Straight guys love me. College age straight guys love me. Let me go on a run. We don't have to do it all the time. I'm in town. Thanks, folks. Goodbye. Legion of Skanks, folks. It's the reason we have a studio. It's literally one of the only shows that makes money. I mean, this network is really being dragged along by Big J. Okerson. That's pretty much what's happening here. Everybody else is a parasite on that great man. He walks around. He's got all of us are his children. We're all his kids. That's what it is. You know? He's got so many sons. Big J, Legion of Skanks. Listen to it so I can fucking get a little money every now and then. Please. To do this horse shit I do every week for you ungrateful bums. Please listen. Very fun show I'm on all the time. It is actually very funny. It's Big J. Okerson, Dave Smith. I forget who else is. I think that's it. I forget who's the other. I want to say Martinez or I don't know. But it's Big J, Dave Smith. I want to say Larry. All right. Well, whatever. Just listen to the show.
This is probably the most horrific story that I've ever read in my entire life.
Oh, Jesus.
The rape of an 8-month-old baby sickens India.
Isn't it terrible that horrific and terrific sound really close on the radio? I've said some things where it sounds like, hey, that's terrific.
Yeah.
And people are like, no, it wasn't. I said, horrific.
Yeah.
That's terrific. 8 years old? Wow.
8 months old, doggy.
Oh. Now it's gross.
8 months old.
Oh, never mind. I don't have jokes about this.
Yeah, you really are challenging us here, aren't you?
My joke started 6 years old.
Yeah.
You got to be able to work a Game Boy before you get me to make fun of fucking you.
Now, I know
That guy used the baby as a Game Boy.
Oh, my God.
Oh!
6 months old.
He couldn't fit the Tetris piece in.
So what, I gotta wait?
Now I'm staring at the thing. The baby's over there. I'm over here.
I'm over here now. Look at that. Get it out of the incubator while it's warm.
I sliced through 2-3 babies like butter.
Look how big my dick looks.
It's like people lollipops.
Hickory dickory dock. Some baby was sucking my cock. Oh.
Oh. Whatever suits you, I could call it a binky.
No. It's formula. Goosh. Goosh.
Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Somebody put this baby on my dick. Oh.
The thing's perched up there like a fucking bird.
I'm shooting pablum like an animal.
we gotta get Dice on the show. You think he'll come?
Anyway.
If
Yeah,
we send him
right?
this clip, you think he'll come?
Well, oh, yeah. Look, I'm trying to do showtime.
I don't appreciate you saying that.
I'm waving for Lord now.
I'm a shooting tiger.
So wait, pull up the story now. A 28-year-old guy. 28-year-old man has been arrested in the Indian capital on charges of raping an 8-month-old.
Oh, wait a minute. He was drunk when he attacked the girl.
Come on, we've all been there.
Oh my God!
Come on, let Hughes without sin cast the first stone.
This is terrible. Doug Stanhope once again.
He was drunk. He said he was drunk.
Hey, little lady.
Little nice lady. It's my default.
28 years old. So keep on. I want to read more of the story. The man has confessed he was drunk when he attacked the girl. The incident happened Sunday at her home in Delhi. They all live in Delhi's, huh?
This baby had her own home.
And marks the latest such case in the
He
country.
turned himself. Something turned himself in. Like he's like, listen. I'm just gonna tell you. I'm gonna preface this with I was hammered, but I'm pretty sure I fucked an 8-year-old.
Egg on my face.
I'm not. I don't fully remember, but like if I had to bet, and I just want to fess up with asterisk, I was drunk.
That's literally like 6 months past egg on your face.
Yeah.
It's so close to literally having egg on your face.
That's too young.
Terrible is it? Oh, I love fucking a zygote. Oh. You know, they look so hot in the fallopian tube.
I split them in two. It makes twins. I make twins out of them.